It seems to be the case that the Republican Party is attempting to make Marjorie Taylor Greene a mainstream figure, or at least that's what's happening based on their actions, whether it's the ultimate goal or not. That is what is occurring, and that is so concerning. We're going to dive into an op-ed that was put out on a conservative publication that kind of outlines this, that I found pretty interesting. But before we do, I want to remind you, because time passes and maybe you forget, the person who we're talking about. This is an example of the past views Marjorie Greene has shared with the world.
The fact, because we see all these sealed federal indictments, and we're seeing all these other things happen, and there's sources like, he's anonymous, Q is anonymous, but he seems to be completely for the good. He seems to be totally on Trump's side, and he seems to be very high up and connected. So because of those things, I'm becoming more hopeful, and I'm not being as pessimistic, and I'm trying to stop saying that's never going to happen, because I really think it might happen. So I'm very excited about that. Now, there's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take this global cabal of Satan-worshiping pedophiles out, and I think we have the president to do it.
And of course there she meant to say cabal. That is what we're talking about there. Someone who launched herself into the right-wing awareness sphere by being kind of this conspiracy influencer type person there, talking about the global cabal or cable, as she called it, of Satan worshiping pedophiles. And then a few years later, she's becoming a mainstream figure within the Republican Party. That is terrifying. And this is how you slide the Republican Party further and further to absolute wackiesville. You take one person at a time who was fringe and bring them to what you're now defining as the center. I'm never going to define that as what should be the center, but clearly the person at the top of the party within the Republican House does feel that way. Take a look at this photo during Kevin McCarthy's fight for Speaker shortly after he had won. And we saw, because he wanted to be Speaker, he started allowing Marjorie Greene to publicly be one of his allies. And there started to be a process within the conservative world of cleansing her past. This article outlines that on The Bulwark, again, a conservative publication, if I'm not mistaken, and Mona Sharin wrote it. And so it walks through the speakership fight, how Kevin McCarthy has been allowing Marjorie Greene, supporting her as a key ally throughout this process, because she decided to support him for Speaker. And then it talks about, instead of reading this to you, I'll just explain. Then it talks about how Marjorie Greene appeared on Fox News, an interview we went over, and the host is kind of assisting in this process. Of course, Fox News is kind of there to help the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and so he's playing the role, this host on Fox News, of giving Marjorie Greene a chance to explain away her past. And as we talked about, what I saw as a humiliating moment was her chance to say, yeah, the past things I used to believe, like that clip I showed you, are just kind of some things I got bought into on the internet, but that's so far in the past, and that is not significant at all. And then this article picks up here, this op-ed. The bad internet sucked her in. That's what she said as her explanation for why she believed past things when asked by this Fox News host, and forced her to believe that Obama was a secret Muslim, that the Parkland shooting and the Sandy Hook murders and the Las Vegas massacre were all false flag operations, that Bill and Hillary Clinton had a hand in killing John F. Kennedy Jr., that 9/11 was an inside job, that a California wildfire was caused by lasers beamed from space and controlled by a prominent Jewish banking family with connections to powerful Democrats, and that Hillary Clinton had murdered a child in order to use her blood for a satanic ritual. So all of that, apparently, is when Marjorie Greene says, I bought into some past things on the internet. That's what she's talking about. It's not, okay, sorry, I believed one stat was different. No. Those are the things that she's referring to. And what's interesting, and then we'll continue because the article makes a few more great points, is when you tell me all of those things, or when I know all of those things were past beliefs you held, it's not that my primary concern is believing you still secretly believe them now. It's understanding for your mind to have been able to perceive those beliefs as reasonable shows me that your mind is not capable now of considering the serious policy discussions and decisions you should be making as a congresswoman. You show with your past beliefs, with that long list of them, that you are not capable of being a congresswoman because you're not able to critically think in the way that you should be able to. Next part from this op-ed, quote, "So far in the past," was another thing Marjorie Greene said in this interview to kind of explain it away and cleanse her past. It continues, "She hasn't said those things since 2018. Why, since then, she's been a model citizen. Except, wait, wasn't it just in February 2022, so far in the past, that Greene spoke at a conference sponsored by the white nationalist fascist Nick Fuentes? True. That was also the month that she described the January 6th defendants as political prisoners and denounced Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police." Oh gosh. "And if memory serves, in October 2022, she told a crowd that Democrats want Republicans dead and they have already started the killings. And wasn't it in December 2022, last month, that she told the New York Young Republican Club that if she and Steve Bannon had organized the January 6th insurrection, quote, we would have won, not to mention it would have been armed." So as is being highlighted there, we cannot allow the Republican Party and conservative pundits who support the Republican Party, like we saw on Fox News, to say, Marjorie Greene, yeah, she's thought some wacky things in the past, but that's not a big deal because it's in the past and she doesn't believe them anymore. Number one, it's not in the past because things she's saying recently, like the January 6th thing highlighted there, and the gazpacho police thing, and the fascist conference she spoke at very recently, and also the fact that as an adult she was able to buy into all those past conspiracies reveals that you don't learn all of your ability to critically think in 3-4 years since believing those theories. It takes a long time, and honestly, if at one point you believe all that, I don't know if you'll ever be ready to be a congressperson. But she is one, and now Kevin McCarthy's taking photos with her, and the conservative movement is accepting her as a mainstream figure. Terrifying, terrifying stuff. Luke P. Beasley on Twitter.